Assalamu alaikum. Sabah al khair. Good morning and bonjour. I hope I've pronounced it nicely. I hope. I hope. French is one of my hearing language which I'm really enjoying, but unfortunately, hardly I could understand anything. It's really indeed a pleasure and pride to be here, and I'm really honored to be invited with a lot of prestigious people and colleagues that they have a lot of knowledge in the area of infectious diseases. And I hope wherever I'm going to talk about it, and I would like to acknowledge and echo what had been very well presented by previous presenter, Professor Mohammed Dr. Ziad Mimish. They have really done a great job and really, again, made my presentation much more easier so to grasp and to really make it as a case. My background as a pediatrician and epidemiologist have been working a lot in the area of public health, and my passion is still vaccine and vaccination. Well, one thing that came up in my mind, which is you have heard from the last two speakers, is about prevention strategy that need to be adopted in case of wherever you have this mass gathering, irrespective. And vaccination was the key strategy that has been adopted, and as a result we've seen a lot. I mean, the ideal, what we see, the Al-Hajj wal-Umrah, this is without vaccination would really, all of us, really suffering a lot. So vaccination had been play a fundamental role in controlling, even preventing a lot of these disasters, not only within the country but and beyond. So the question that we all have in your mind is vaccination is a good idea for individual attending sport event, mega mass gathering. So what I'm going to do as I'm going through my presentation is some of them already narrated by the previous speaker, is the burden of this vaccine preventable disease in the sport mass gathering. I mean, there have been tons of those, and whether all that has been adopted have been really good enough to prevent the vaccine preventable diseases based on the experience that we have. And again, I'm going to touch upon these vaccination based on the experiences ideally needed for individual who are attending, and finally the conclusions. I think by now you know, when you look at this slide, mass gathering been organized by political, religious, sporting, and so forth. And as you could see, huge number of people are really gathering. And for the last FIFA World Cup in Qatar, they had more than 3 million individual gathering in that small area like Qatar, that if you really know about it. We also know that these beautiful Olympics games include a massive infrastructure, economic benefit for a variety of areas, but also enhancing surveillance is a fundamental. Therefore, as you have already heard, emerging of these infection in this environment are possible, although the experience that we had over the years in the sports mass gathering were not really see that a huge of infectious disease. But with the emerging of the diseases lately, globally, we need to be very careful and take very, very serious on these emerging diseases, whether they come. So this is a slide that shows, just in case, if we have measles over there, so one person could really infect about 18 people within around that person. So some of these diseases are quite infectious and could really cause a huge harm within a country, even beyond that. These are another studies that have been shown that, as we have already heard, you do experience in these sports mass gathering a lot of these respiratory, gastroenteritis, and majority of these, because majority of people attending this sort of mass gathering are young. So you could see that majority of these been affected by the younger one, and with some of these could have a very high incidence rate by attendees, up to 4,000, for example, some of these events that took place earlier. Just to give you an example of the Russian FIFA that took place in 2018, that they had a number of these attention that to be passed over to the people really attending this sort of event. And one of the issue that they have really stressed a lot is uptake of the vaccine when you want to attend this sort of events. So another example that had took place in Japan in 2015, the events the event had led to relatively an outbreak and the risk of spread of invasive meningococcal diseases in that. So these are the risks are really taking place. And these are other mass gathering that took place in South Korea. So in 1880 Olympic and World Cup 2002, based on this experience, they've done a lot of things. So the subsequent event, they were really uneventful because of experience that they've taken over the years. And this sort of action that have been taken in order to minimize the meningococcal outbreak that could take place in South Korea Olympic Games that took place in 2018. And as you could see over there, so what they have done is they provided the meningococcal vaccine to all and vaccinated all the staff volunteer and everybody that really coming over there, particularly the sports people and around it. And at the end of the day, the good thing about it, they are experiencing a much less cases over there. This is another example that took place in Japan Olympic Games in 2020. Maybe the idea over here that they were not thinking that meningococcal could be one of the threat of these gatherings. So you could see that the awareness among the people who are really attending were much less compared to other infectious diseases, and really had led to a small spike of meningococcal disease because of a low uptake of vaccines in this. So just to remind us again, diseases like meningococcal are quite dangerous and could really cause a lot of death and mortality. And the younger one, compared to other diseases that we all aware, the younger one, the adult younger one could really cause spreading of a disease to the adults and other, not only within the events, even beyond that, they could really cause that. Well, again, I think you have already heard about a number of these possible outbreak of communicable diseases. In Zika 2016, there were a lot of Zika phobia, and there were a lot of countries, they would say, no, we need to postpone. But at the end of the day, this was implemented without any sort of an eventful. But this is one of the fear that is taking place with this communicable disease, and similarly for the Ebola fears as well. So let's come back to our question. Preparing for these big events, are we really afraid of the infectious disease threats at this gathering? And what sort of vaccine that we need to think of wherever we have this sort of huge gathering? So when you look at the pillar of the strategic prevention of vaccine preventable diseases, there are 4 pillars, and one of the fundamental key pillar for prevention is immunization, among others that need to be also adopted strictly among the people really attending this sort of gathering. And the FIFA World Cup is one of the threats that they were thinking, challenges, risk of outbreak, COVID. Even those days, there were the emergence of mpox. So they are thinking of the possibility of that. So what they have done in FIFA, for me, I believe this is one of the good example. So what they have done is a group of experts from the CDC, WHO had met and to see what the threat and what could be done with respect to try as much as possible to prevent these sort of diseases. So what they recommended that wherever who are willing to attend the FIFA 22 should visit a medical practitioner 4 to 6 weeks prior to the traveling or pre-traveling consulting, and and they request a number of the vaccine to be taken over there. So these are the vaccines that they have requested over there. There are routine vaccines if you really miss them, and there are a bunch of these vaccines that request that, you know, if you haven't taken them or you are eligible to have a problem that, and you need to take them. So they came up with a bunch of these vaccines that are requesting all the people really attending over there to take the vaccines. And of course, the vaccine were not mandatory. Just they are recommending the vaccine, but this is one, and including the invasive meningococcal vaccine as well, to be part of this package that are requesting all the individual attending over there. The good thing about it, in addition to that, is the surveillance that you have had from the previous presentation. They were one of the best surveillance that were created in the country, because without the surveillance, you will not be able to identify the cases. Therefore, you won't be able to have that a quick and on-the-spot response timely. So they have this integrated-based surveillance, but they are also have a strong event-based surveillance based on media, community, and so forth. So both of these surveillance will really have done a great job in terms of making sure that whatever is going on within those events are really being picked up, timely picked up as a whole. So this is something that I really applaud them. So one thing that what they have done is, for all the staff working in the FIFA, they have to receive all these vaccines. The basics one is a must, that all the people really attending, irrespective. In addition to that, they have all these, because the vaccine was not mandated, so were really anticipated, maybe they may be experience a COVID small outbreak, maybe seasonal vaccine, meningococcal. So what they've done is they were absolutely ready within a country to provide this vaccine wherever they are ready, in terms of how to do the contact tracing, to provide these vaccines wherever they are ready. Similarly for vaccine preventable diseases, arranging very much all the vaccine that needed, if this is as arranging vaccine outreach. So they were very much ready. And for seasonal vaccine and meningococcal vaccine was, so first of all over here, there were all the people dealing with the within the country, dealing with any sort of activities, they were provided, and it's a must, because these are quite important people who are really running the day-by-day business of different type of business that to make the FIFA looks okay. In addition to that, at the country level, they were really ready to make sure that if they, with the surveillance that they have over there, if they need to screen, if they need to provide the vaccination on the spot, they could do that immediately and timely. And so they adopt all these strategies, including immunization, and alhamdulillah, and at the end of the day, there were no major public health events. And really, we could really applaud them because of these amazing things that they've done so far. While looking at Euro FIFA that took place in 2000, June to July of this year, they came up with almost a similar requirement for people really want to attend this event. So they are requesting all the individual over there to see their doctors and to see what all these vaccines need to be taken. So they came up with a bunch of these vaccines that, you know, before they are highly recommending that you need to take all these vaccines. Again, vaccination is not mandatory to attend, but they are strongly were recommended. And similarly for the Paris Olympic, they came up with a very clear recommending that immunization recommended relevant to exposure risks in destination, wherever they're coming from, and they came up with a number of these vaccines that these are the ones that they need to be taken wherever you are really wanted to go over there in these countries. Okay, so with the latest problem that we have, the fake, which is public health of a number of these diseases of emerging and re-emerging diseases like mpox, smallpox that we have it over here. When you look at the WHO recommendation on SAGE recommendation, there's no guide on whether you need to give uh, vaccination for the mpox, for example, and even for the others. No guide on mass gathering vaccination, but do have very clear guide how to, wherever you have outbreak and preventive use, outbreak, what are the people that you need to cover and everything. So they're very good that, but not attending of these huge masquerading that you need to take, for example, mpox vaccine. They haven't advised that at all. So do have a smallpox outbreak, whatever you have. So this is an extra piece of thing that the country need to be very ready within the country. If this is going to happen, how would we handle the outbreak of this? And similarly, for the Ebola vaccination, they came up with the outbreak and preventive use, although the preventive use are very limited to a number of people, but outbreak, Ebola outbreak, if this is going to happen, they have very good recommendation, clear guide how to handle over there. And similarly, beyond that, so the outbreak, they came up with a number of these recommendations that, if you're going to have outbreak, deal with that one, do that. So very good guide how to handle. And similarly for the Ebola as well. Looking at the Zika, also there's no recommendation, for the mass gathering like this. But again, wherever you experience outbreak, you need to take care of who are the one that really need to be provided with the vaccine and so forth. So this is the update that been given in 2017. So there are guide globally. If you're going to have an outbreak within these gathering, what you could do, but there's no guide in general whether you're going to recommend that people going in this and to prevent that this can go. So one of the way that we need to highly increase the awareness of people that, we have a lot of windows before they come. The window of volunteer registration, there's a booking tickets. I think this is an excellent window that we could pushing the people to understand the importance of taking all these vaccine that have been recommended over there. Otherwise, people, they didn't give a damn to what we've recommended sometimes. So this is one of the greatest window that could be taken. Therefore, if I may say what would be the message is, sport event as of now hasn't been shown to cause a huge pandemic or whatever it is, but there is a possibility, yes, absolutely, even with a very limited, yes. And experience have shown that there is a possibility that could happen, particularly with the latest, a lot of these emerging diseases. And in fact, many of these, traditional vaccine preventable diseases could be prevented if all these fans and everybody really have taken the right vaccine that needed over there. Have a pre-travel consultation and ensure that routine vaccination uptake is a fundamental. Therefore, we need to be very alert before these big events as much as possible, what would be the taken globally in terms of emerging or not emerging. Therefore, the countries who are going to host this sort of thing need to be very vigilant and ready to make sure that, la samahallah, if anything happen like this, you are much ready to cope up with this. By this, I'd like to thank you so much for your attention.